You thought the cut was the end, huh? You thought when they turned their backs, when they ripped that last piece of you out like it meant nothing, that it was over. Cute. But let me tell you something real. Something nobody ever dares to say out loud. That cut wasn't your ending. It was your fucking initiation. That's the slice that tore away your illusions, your fantasies, your little hope-filled lies about how people work and what loyalty really means. That's the blade that baptized you into the real world, kid. And I ain't here to wrap it in sugar or pretend it didn't hurt. You bled, yeah. But pain doesn't mean death. Pain means you're being carved into something else. Something that don't flinch no more. Something dangerous. Something they should have been afraid of from the beginning. They didn't just hurt you. They chose to. They had options. Could have been honest. Could have stood beside you. Could have held the line. But now, they stabbed with a smile. And you? You let them. You held out your trust, like it was a fucking gift. And they ripped it out your hands, and spit on it. And now you sit there, trying to make sense of it. Trying to understand why they did what they did. Let me simplify it for you. They did it because they could. Because your kindness was a weakness to them. Your silence, they thought it meant you were weak. Your loyalty, they saw it as blind. But don't hate them for being snakes. Hate yourself for not hearing the hiss sooner. You see, this world doesn't reward soft hearts. It chews them up, laughs while they bleed, and moves on without looking back. And still, people like you keep showing up with stitched up wounds and that same stupid hope. Maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time they'll see your worth, but they won't. Not until you stop offering it. You gotta flip the whole damn table, that pain they caused. That should be your blueprint. You felt the fire? Good. Now, use it to burn the mask you wore trying to be good enough for people who never deserved you. That mask was heavy, wasn't it? That version of you that kept apologizing for existing, that kept shrinking to fit into their comfort zones, that version died the moment they cut you. So quit trying to resurrect it. You're not that person anymore. You're something else now. And it's time to act like it. You ever wonder why they laughed after they hurt you? Why they acted like nothing happened? Because in their minds, they won. They got what they wanted and walked away clean. But here's the twist. They only thought they won. What they actually did was wake up the version of you that doesn't play nice. The one that doesn't need to be liked. The one that doesn't seek validation from hands that once betrayed it. That's your power. And they handed it to you in the form of pain. Funny, ain't it? How their betrayal was your rebirth. How their silence taught you everything words never could. And now you get to choose who you become next. Scary for them, huh? So let's stop pretending, yeah? Let's stop pretending like you're still broken. You're not. That crack they left behind, it ain't a wound. It's a fucking window. a window into what you're capable of when you've got nothing left to lose. And that's where it all starts. When the fear is gone, when the begging stops, when the masks drop, that's when you're the most dangerous version of yourself. And trust me, they'll feel it in the silence, in the way you stop calling, in the way your eyes stop searching for their presence, in the way your energy shifts from proving yourself to building yourself. They'll feel it, and it'll haunt them. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You just need to become everything they hoped you'd never be. They thought the silence meant you gave up, that walking away meant you had nothing left in you. But that's the part they never understood. Silence ain't surrender. It's strategy. See, loud people react. Loud people explain. Loud people try to prove something. But the real killers, the ones who rise from the wreckage, they go quiet. They start building in the shadows. They collect every memory, every betrayal, every damn tear, and they forge it into armor. You think that silence was weakness? Nah, that silence was you loading the weapon. You weren't done. You were becoming the kind of person they won't even recognize when they look back. You didn't disappear. You evolved. Let's talk about evolution, shall we? People think it's some natural thing, some peaceful process of becoming better. Bullshit. Real evolution is violent. It's bloody. It's born from pain, not comfort. You think the lion became king by being gentle? Nah. The lion got there by surviving betrayals, being left for dead, and learning how to roar without needing applause. You were too soft, too honest, too willing to bleed for those who wouldn't even give you a bandage. That's why it hurt so bad. Not because you were weak, but because you loved deep. And deep love in a shallow world, that's a dangerous thing to carry. It'll crush you if you don't control it. But now you've tasted the other side, haven't you? The side where love ain't enough. The side where loyalty gets laughed at. That's the wake-up call. That's the cut. And like I said, it wasn't the end. It was the fucking start. Start of what? Of the real you. The one who knows better now. The one who won't beg to be seen. The one who stops watering dead gardens and starts building walls with the stones they threw. You gotta look at your pain like currency. Every ounce of it is worth something. You don't waste it crying in the corner. You invest it in your craft, in your body, in your mind, in your future. They took something from you? Good. Now take everything from that feeling and turn it into fuel. Every time you hear their name, let it remind you who you'll never be again. Every time you remember how they looked at you like you were replaceable, let it harden your vision. That's the power of the cut. It leaves a scar, and that scar, it ain't just there to remind you of the pain. It's there to remind you that you survived. Survival changes people. It makes them colder, sure, but it also makes them smarter, more calculated, more precise. You don't flinch the way you used to. You don't offer your heart like candy. You watch, you observe, you wait. That's power. Not exploding, not shouting, not chasing, just moving, silently, with purpose. And they'll feel it. They'll feel it when they try to come back and find the door welded shut. They'll feel it when they realize the version of you they knew is gone. And not in a sad way, not in a bitter way, but in a way that says, you burned the bridge, and I built an empire with the ashes. So here's the truth they'll never admit. When they hurt you, they didn't expect you to rise. They thought you'd drown in it, thought you'd break permanently. That's why they never looked back. That's why they never checked in. Not because they didn't care, but because they assumed you'd never recover. And now you've got a choice. Either prove them right by staying stuck in that moment, or turn your silence into a fucking earthquake. Move so hard, they feel your absence louder than your presence. Become so focused, they think you died. Don't tell them you're better. Make them hear it in your silence. Make them fear it in your growth. You ever notice how they only start watching when you stop talking? When you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your silence, stop showing up like a loyal little dog hoping they toss you a bone. That's when their curiosity kicks in. That's when they lean in and go, wait, what's happening? Because silence, real silence, not the petty, attention-seeking kind, but the kind that comes from a mind that's finished explaining, is loud as hell to those who once fed off your noise. You were noise to them. You were background music, comfort, attention, a mirror they used to see how lovable they were. But now they're staring at a void. A cold, black silence that doesn't flinch, doesn't reply, doesn't care, and it eats them alive, even if they'll never admit it. You see, there's something terrifying about someone who's been broken and came back without a need to be understood. That's what you're becoming. You're no longer that person who argues with ghosts, trying to get closure. You don't text them paragraphs they don't read. You don't post for attention. You don't beg people to value you. You've seen what happens when you love people more than they respect you. You learned the hard way. And now your detachment is lethal. Now your silence is warfare. Because the most dangerous man in the room ain't the one yelling. It's the one watching, calculating, smiling, without warmth. That's you now. And don't let them trick you into guilt. They'll try it. Oh yeah. Once they feel the shift, once they realize the leash snapped, they'll play victim. You changed. You're not the same. You've gone cold. Damn right. You did change. You had to. Because the old you was a graveyard of chances, full of people who never deserved the kindness they got. You were dying by degrees just to keep them warm. And for what? For a maybe? For some imaginary version of them that only existed in your heart? Nah, not anymore. You learned. And now, every lesson is a locked door behind you. No more access. No more chances. You don't explain why you left the fire. You just let them burn. Let me break it down even darker for you. Some people only come close to light just to steal heat. They never intended to stay. They just didn't want to freeze. So they latch on to someone like you. Someone glowing, someone giving, someone who would cut their own skin to bandage another. And when they're warm enough, they dip, they vanish, and you're left there, confused, thinking maybe you did too much. But that's the game. That's the script. And now you've read it cover to cover. You know the patterns. You've seen the masks slip. So no, you don't need to get cold. You need to get clear. Clear about what you are, about what you'll never accept again, about the fact that anyone who makes you feel like you're too much is already giving too little. That cut. That moment they left you bleeding with no explanation, no closure, no mercy. That was your graduation. Pain was your teacher. Disappointment was your diploma. And silence. Silence is your new language. You don't threaten. You don't announce your departure. You just go. You walk away and build in private. No updates, no proofs. Just a vanishing act, so complete, it echoes in the corridors of their memory. Because people remember who used to care. They remember who stayed when no one else did. And when you're gone, truly gone, not just physically but emotionally, that silence will scream louder than every word you ever said. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about becoming heartless. This is about becoming smart. You still got that heart. You just don't hand it out like it's cheap. You protect it like the weapon it is. You use it to move, to build, to create something no betrayal can touch. That's your power now. You didn't lose yourself when they hurt you. You found the version of you that doesn't need them anymore. Revenge. That's the word they expect to see carved into your next move. Like you're gonna show up swinging, breaking things, screaming, trying to get even. But that's not power. That's noise. That's what they would do if they were in your place. Because they don't know how to move in silence. They don't know how to let pain do the sculpting and time do the talking. See? Real revenge? It ain't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not served on a plate. It's served in your absence. In how you disappear from their world, but start building your own. No fireworks, no warnings. Just that creeping realization that you're not looking back anymore. That's when the panic sets in. That's when they start checking your page. That's when they whisper about you in conversations, pretending not to care while stalking everything you create. Because you didn't give them revenge. You gave them a legacy to regret. You want to destroy them? Good. But not with fists. Not with words. Destroy them with your growth, with your silence, with your success, with how untouchable you become. Let them rot in the comfort of thinking they won. Let them sit in their shallow circles, feeding on cheap attention, while you rise in places they can't even pronounce. hurts. You don't owe them an explanation, a response, or a reaction. The day you stop reacting, that's the day you take your power back. That's the day they lose access to the chaos they used to control you with. You used to break down every time they went cold, didn't you? You used to beg for clarity, for answers, for a reason why they treated you like nothing. But now you give them nothing. No tears, no closure, just your absence. And that's the loudest thing you'll ever say. They underestimated you. Don't forget that part. They saw your softness and mistook it for weakness. They saw your loyalty and mistook it for desperation. They thought you'd always be there, always answer, always care. And now that you've gone quiet, now that you've hardened, they're confused. What happened? They'll ask. What happened? You woke the hell up. You realized that being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. That kindness isn't owed. It's earned. And from now on, you don't hand your soul to people just because they smile pretty or text you when they're bored. You learned how to unlove people who abused your love. And that right there, that's rare. That's what makes you untouchable. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them play victim while you move in silence. You don't need to correct their lies. The truth always makes its way out. But your silence, that speaks before the truth even arrives. It says you're done. It says you've outgrown their games. It says that no matter what they say, you won't return to the place that nearly broke you. And yeah, sometimes you'll miss them. Sometimes that old version of you will whisper, "Go back. Maybe they changed." But you won't. Because even if they did change, you changed more. And that's the part they weren't ready for. That's the twist they didn't expect. See, they were comfortable with you being broken. That made them feel powerful. They liked the version of you that cried for them, that apologized for being hurt, that stayed up waiting for texts that never came. That version made them feel big. But now you're dangerous. Now you've healed into something they can't manipulate. And that's the kind of healing that hurts them. Not the fake kind where you pretend to be okay while still secretly hoping they'll come back. No. This is real healing, quiet, cold, complete. The kind where you could sit across from them and feel nothing, no hate, no love, just peace. And that peace, that'll haunt them longer than your anger ever could. They all leave like you were never real to begin with. That's the part that cracks people open. The ease with which you're erased, like you were a temporary escape, not a permanent soul. Like your loyalty was disposable. And for a while, you sit with that. You sit in the aftermath of it all, staring at the door they walked out of, wondering if you were the problem. You question your worth, your presence, your heart. But the truth, the raw, ugly truth, them leaving was the best thing that could have ever happened to you. Because what broke you also freed you. freed you from the illusion, from the one-sided fairy tale you kept alive with your effort alone. You called it love. They called it convenience. You called it loyalty. They called it availability. And once they drained all they could, they vanished, expecting you to rot quietly in the dark. But here's the twist, the cruel little twist they never see coming. You don't rot in the dark, you rebuild there. You don't crumble under the silence, they do. You don't fade when they stop clapping. You grow louder in ways they'll never hear again. That's the beauty of solitude. It's where the masks fall off. It's where the pretending ends. When you're finally alone, really alone. Not just without people, but without their noise, without their expectations. You meet the version of yourself they never wanted you to discover. The dangerous one. The one who doesn't need validation to move. The one who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't beg. You don't just walk away, you transform on the way out. They left because they couldn't feed on you anymore. Simple as that. When your energy shifted, when you started waking up to their patterns, when you stopped reacting the way they expected, you became useless to their agenda. That's why they ghosted. That's why they replaced you like nothing. Not because you were less, but because you were becoming more. And more is threatening. More means they lose control. So yeah, they'll spin it. They'll twist the narrative, call you cold, distant, different. And they're right. You are different. You got tired of giving CPR to connections that died months ago. You got tired of pouring into cups that cracked the moment they touched your trust. You finally learned being alone is better than being drained. Don't ever let anyone tell you solitude is weakness. Weak people cling to noise. Weak people surround themselves with distractions to avoid looking in the mirror. But strong people, they sit with their demons. They dissect their pain. They look at their wounds and say, all right, what now? That's where strength is born, in the silence. In the nights, nobody claps for you. In the mornings, where you drag yourself out of bed with nothing but your will, and you did that. You're still doing it. Every damn day you wake up and choose not to fold, you win. That's what they don't understand. They see silence and think surrender. But silence is where you sharpen the blade. It's where your soul reloads. It's where the version of you that don't need anyone gets built. And yeah, it gets lonely. Real doesn't mean painless. Sometimes you'll look at your phone and realize no one's checking in. Sometimes the memories will hit you like a train, and you'll wonder if you made the right choice walking away. But you did. Because the people who needed to lose you, they were never meant to stay. Some people are lessons wrapped in affection. They come to show you what you should never accept again. They teach you through pain, through betrayal, through silence. And once you've learned, the universe snatches them away because their role is finished. Don't go back. Don't chase shadows. Don't resurrect dead weight just because you're scared of your own strength. Aloneness doesn't break you. It reveals you. It's where legends are made. It's where the quietest people become the most dangerous. Not because they hate, but because they've outgrown everything shallow. They're no longer looking for company. They're creating empires. That's who you're becoming. And when the world finally sees you again, when they realize the ghost they left behind is now a storm they can't outrun, that's not revenge. That's justice. Discipline. That's the final evolution, isn't it? Not rage, not revenge, not even pain. Discipline. That cold, silent commitment to rising no matter what. That unshakable routine that don't need applause, don't need company, don't need noise. Just you, waking up before the sun, grinding when your heart still bleeds, building when no one's watching, healing without the world knowing what you're fighting. That's where the monsters are born. Not in fury, but in focus. You want power? You want peace? You want to make them regret ever thinking you were weak? Then forget them. Forget every name, every promise, every knife. Burn it all into fuel and build something they'll never touch again. See, people fear chaos, but they respect discipline. Anyone can scream, anyone can rage, but not everyone can stay locked in when the world's falling apart. That's rare. That's terrifying. That's what they never expected from you. They wanted you to break loud, to lose control, to self-destruct, so they could say, see, told you he was unstable, but you didn't. You didn't crash, you calculated. You turned the breakdown into a breakthrough. You took every ounce of what they did to you and turned it into focus. And that's the kind of story that echoes through silence and hits people where their pride hides, because they thought they were the villain in your life. But now they realize they were just a footnote in your origin. The old you, gone, and not temporarily. Buried. That soft version that kept forgiving people who knew exactly what they were doing. The one who stayed loyal to chaos. The one who hoped toxic people would wake up and finally treat you right. That version got burned in the fire. And thank God. Because now, look at you. Hardened, sharpened, cold in all the right places. You don't even flinch when someone lies. You don't shake when people leave. You've seen it all, you've felt it all, and it made you deadly. Not because you hate the world, but because you finally stopped letting it walk all over you. You've got dreams now, bigger than people, bigger than pain. You've got a vision that don't include proving yourself to the ones who never saw you. And that's the greatest shift you'll ever make. From proving to creating. From chasing people to chasing purpose. From bleeding for love to building for legacy. That's the turning point. That's when the game changes. Because now it's not about them, not about what they did, not about what they said. It's about you, what you're becoming, what you're designing, what you're building brick by brick in silence. They'll watch from a distance. Oh, they will. They always do. They'll see you on that path they never believed you could walk. And some will clap. Some will pretend they were there for you all along. And some will choke on their regret, not because you punished them, but because they lost access to a version of you they'll never find again. You were rare, you were gold in their hands, but they wanted glitter, fast, easy, replaceable. And now they're left with noise, while you become the silence that haunts them. That's what the cut did. It woke you up. It taught you that no matter how deep they slice, you get up. You walk through it. You don't wait for apologies. You don't beg for healing. You become it. You become the very storm they feared you'd never unleash. Not to destroy, but to rebuild. To rise from every drop of blood they spilled. To move forward with discipline in your eyes and fire in your gut. Quiet, focused, unstoppable. Because this is only the beginning, the start of the life they swore you'd never have. And the best part? You don't need to show them a thing. Your silence already did. The past? Yeah, let's talk about it. That heavy chain you kept dragging behind you like a ghost. Those moments you replayed 1,000 times, thinking if you just said this or done that, maybe they wouldn't have left. Maybe they'd have stayed. Maybe they'd have seen you. But let me snap that illusion right here. They saw you. Oh, they did. They saw how deep you loved, how real you were, how rare that kind of soul is in a world built on masks and manipulation. And you know what scared them? Not your flaws, not your wounds. What scared them was your purity, your ability to stay loyal when you were hurting, to forgive while bleeding, to keep showing up while breaking inside. That's what made you a threat. You were real in a world that feeds on fake, and they couldn't handle it. So they left. Or worse, they stayed just long enough to ruin you, then left you to sweep up the mess alone. But you know what they didn't expect? That the very pieces they shattered would turn into blades, that the silence they left you with would become your fortress. They didn't expect that the person they tried to break would come back colder, sharper, calculated. See, the past ain't a prison, not if you know how to use it. The past is your weapon. Every lie they told, ammo. Every time they ghosted you, more fuel. Every time you cried in a room by yourself wondering why you weren't enough, that's your fucking origin story. That's the part of the movie where the music stops and the character starts building. No more distractions, no more excuses.